We kick off with a necessary change now that the status quo has been disrupted. Zach needs a new uniform. If he's part of the command staff, he's got to look the part. So Lanier has some Minbari making the final adjustments, much to Zach's extreme irritation.
It looks fine.
Oh yeah, I should listen to Minbari about fashion.
He's being kind of a tool, but he does have a point.
I mean, no offense, but I've seen war lines with more fashion sense. Ow!
Much like the one on the tool he was just jabbed with. But now that this fun is over, Lanier notes that Zach's problem isn't with the uniform. It's the situation that requires him to wear it. And yeah, Zach doesn't want to admit that Garibaldi isn't coming back, and is adamant that sooner or later he's going to take his old job back. Nobody ever really leaves when you work on Babylon 5.
Are you ready to leave?
Well, yeah, obviously they have to go from time to time, but they'll always return.
He should know that if the dreaming does not go well, you will not be allowed to return to him.
Yeah, well, his clothes are ugly, so what does he know? After the titles, Ivanova gets the first hint of those shortages I mentioned yesterday. But no time, she's on her way to the Drazi for a big ceremony. She's even broken out the colored cloth that won in that contest. Looks like green won the day over purple. Tough loss. Meanwhile, Dr. Franklin is helping out Jakar, who is back from his world and being fitted with a prosthetic eye to replace the one that the Centauri took from him.
Now I'm activating the prosthetic eye.
Oh yeah, it'll do that sometimes when you blink. Oh, and also sometimes if you haven't blinked soon enough. One thing I like about this is the striving for realism. It's awkward to put in, it's the wrong color, it has a slightly CRT look to the vision, and it's electronic, so you have to charge it every night like your phone. In other words, it sounds like a second or third generation cybernetic eye would. We worked out a few of the bugs, but it's not plug and play. But it does have a few advantages. Like the ability to play with it. Meanwhile, Sheridan is called to Delenn's quarters to do a little playing himself. This butters him up to bring up the watch you while you sleep thing. There's one more night left to satisfy Minbari tradition, and it's to be tonight, she says, because she is leaving for Minbar for some time, so she wants to have this part completed first. Don't leave a girl only part of the way there. That's not a gentlemanly thing to do. Before that, though, Sheridan has a meeting with Franklin and Marcus, still steamed over the hatchet job in the last episode and how they walked right into it. Like it or not, they'll have to start moving now while they still can, which is where these two come in. Help them set up a way to bypass Clark's quarantine of B5 and the information blackout. Meet up with some of their allies on Mars. Sheridan himself can't go, obviously. He's the face of the movement. He's sure to be spotted and reported. And as for Ivanova, is otherwise engaged. Franklin is the best one to represent the command staff on B5, and Marcus will be his bodyguard and the one who can grease the wheels here. Plus, let's not forget that before joining Earth Force, Franklin made his way around the galaxy using his medical skills. He's got plenty of experience traveling at far below first class and bunking wherever there's a place to curl up. He's a good choice all around for this mission. Plus, there'll be a great double act, I'm sure, and that's always important in entertainment. Before going, Franklin suggested that, since they'll be in the same solar system, maybe he can find out about Sheridan's father, see if there's any word. That had been a big concern of Sheridan. What happened to his father? Well, they probably knew that because the news broadcast mentioned that, oh yeah, it's too bad that Sheridan's father has gone missing. But Sheridan shoots that down. The only reason that ISN would mention that would be in order to provoke him into doing something. Even just asking questions risks jeopardizing their assets. Sheridan is just going to have to hope things worked out and do his best not to think about it, no matter how much he has to keep boning his hot alien girlfriend. So, after she watches Sheridan sleep, it's time for Delenn to head out to sort out this Minbari situation. So is she surprised to see that Lanier is waiting to catch her before she goes, so she's not going to leave him behind. See, she's worried that he's going to see something she doesn't want her to see, learn something about her that she doesn't want anyone to know. Don't we all feel that way sometimes? But this particular case, it's a bit of a whopper. Making a mistake that causes a war of genocide because you're upset, not many people can claim that. So they travel to Minbar and start with a ceremony where the guy who's running this show says no Minbari has ever crossbred with an off-worlder because it's forbidden. Trademark. He says that what affects no one else is her business, but if she goes through with this, she'll be dragging their entire culture and history into bed with her. And who needs that kind of pressure? So for that reason, they should get a say. At the very least, understand if this is really the calling of her heart or just something else. The clan will make that call, and she's expected to abide by their decision. And to be sure, this isn't a sham demonstration. The dreaming is a chance for her to demonstrate the reasons and no doubt show us some dirty, filthy sex. Wow. Delenn and Lanier thus drink from the chalice from the palace, complete with smoke. Then it's off to the chamber of dream stuff. She admits to Lanier that she was a second for a dreaming before, for Dukat, the great leader who looks kind of like John Malkovich. He explains that there's nothing to fear in the dreaming. So that's a relief. When we next pick up, much earlier, Dukat chooses Delenn while storming off to see the Grey Council in order to join him. Back then, she was a mere acolyte, never brought to see the Great Council before, and terrified that she's done something wrong, suggested in some unintended way that she was wiser than them. Instead, Dukat brought her here to bring up the issue of humanity, whom they heard about secondhand at best. Primitive, passionate, dangerous people. I like it. Makes us sound badass. The three casts all agree that making contact is a bad idea, so he demands to know what Delenn's opinion is. She says, well, it's a mystery. How can we turn down the chance to solve it? And that's what Dukat's been waiting for. He gives them a dressing down for failing to rise even to the level of an acolyte, and it's easy to see why he was so admired. His words are powerful and delivered by a man of equal power. You know, really, it's amazing to think that this actor was Enoch on that one episode of Star Trek The Next Generation. This is how she came to work for Dukat. He wanted to shame them for their foolish and petty choice, but now they'll be mad at her for being the means that he used to humiliate them. So he's going to have to train her personally because no one else will. For did not Valen say, you break it, you buy it. When she becomes a member of the Grey Council, the special triangle glows, causing much shock from the other members. In private, Dukat admits it confirms something that he's long suspected about her, having to do with her heritage. But before she can explain further, well, it's time for the date with destiny, because the human fleet has arrived. The warrior caste explains that they always approach with gun ports open to demonstrate they've nothing to hide. This should go fine, and Delenn's observation that soul hunter ships are nearby is no cause for concern, none at all. So, as death is unleashed upon the Minbari ship, Dukat lies dying in front of Delenn, muttering something in his final moments. Probably the Minbari version of, either these curtains go or I go. In her grief, she casts her final vote for the council. Take revenge on the attackers, no mercy. She's pretty emphatic on that point. Soon, after she's calmed down, she learns that back on Minbar, those words have been embraced by the people. Oh, shit. Definitely not the way that you want to go viral.
And that is why you have agreed to become one with Sheridan. You're still grieving for your actions, still guilty over the death of so many humans, trying to atone for your mistake.
You stepped in it now, Lanier. It's got to be even worse to get your head shoved up your ass when you have all those bony ridges. Actually, Lanier is just warning that this is what they're going to say, that Delenn is pursuing Sheridan out of guilt and not love. Well, that night in bed, against bed, she reflects on some of the things Dukat said, thinking that there must be something more. And finally, she remembers that he said something right before the end, the clinching point. So she insists that she, Lanier, and the head griping guy go into the dreaming so they can see what she saw but missed the first time. That she is a child of Valen. That's why the Triluminopoly glowed, the same reason that it glowed for Sinclair. The right genes were present. The records of the Great Council that Lanier retrieves shows that Sinclair and Minbari did, appropriately for them, some boning, and passed the genes down through the generations. That was the point. Whether Delenn married Sheridan or Minbari, the result would be the same. Her children would have human DNA. So, what's there to complain about? Oh yeah, the people can't know the truth because they can't handle knowing that some don't have perfect Minbari DNA. Some of them might have the DNA of Valen, only the most revered of all of their ancient figures. Yeah, wouldn't want to find out that you might be related to our greatest hero. That'd be horrible. Well, to protect this secret, a counter-proposal is made, which is complicated because remember, under almost all circumstances, a Minbari cannot lie. So whatever they say has got to be the truth. He says that in the old days, when Minbari killed Minbari, even though we like to pretend that they never did, after the conflict was over, they had one of their own marry the other side, the female going to the side that lost more as a symbol of life. So if Delenn married a human, it would be consistent with tradition. And Minbari loved their tradition, almost as much as a fiddler on the roof. And as for Marcus and Franklin...
Helps me relax.
Marcus, this is the kind of conversation that can only end in a gunshot.
It's going to be a fun road trip. Atonement is unimportant. Well, which is fine. It just means that you don't have to watch it to follow what's going on. Yes, this is when Franklin and Marcus set out, but that's all you need to know. They left. No, the story's about Delenn and the situation that she's found herself in. She's done many things in defiance, from her transformation to dissolving the Great Council, but we get the sense that this is one case where she would not this time. She will obey if she must. And that's no surprise. Everything else she did was for the cause or for prophecy. This would be defying them solely for the sake of her own wishes. And that's something she can't justify. You know, what I find amusing is how this episode contrasts with one from the first season, when Sinclair said that when you make someone angry, you see the real person. Yet when Delenn describes her decision to strike back, she said she was filled with rage, and afterwards trying to backpedal from what she said in a moment of anger, to show anger doesn't reveal our true selves. It reveals our worst selves. You can't judge Delenn solely by what she did on her worst day, when you have seen how she's acquitted herself every other day. Tomorrow we close out B5 week with Racing Mars.